What is up? What is up? What is up, folks? This is your main man JD in the building today. Streaming all over the place today. So just wanted to get a quick stream going with some MrBallen reactions today. So I know he's done a bunch of stuff in the past, like a ton of like scary story reactions and all that type of stuff. So I'm super excited to jump on today and see exactly how that's going to go. We've done a bunch of these in the past, but we have not done any recently, probably within the last like 4 to 5 months. But we used to do a bunch of these in the past, and I kind of like to jump on a Sunday to just hang out with everybody, chill out a little bit, and see how things are going. So without further ado, we're going to get this going. So yeah, if you guys are tuning in right now, regardless of where you are at, please let me know if you can hear me in the chat. I will pull up my apps on my phone and see if everything is sounding okay on there and looking okay. Let me check. Yep, looking good right there. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, good on there. Good on there. Okay, looks like it's good on here too. Okay, yeah, we about to get things going, man. So yeah, if you can hear me all right, please let me know. I think it's sounding good right there. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna get this going, man. Wherever you are at, jump in the chat and let me know how you're feeling today on this beautiful, beautiful Sunday. I don't know exactly what time it is wherever you're at, but it is about 1:30 p.m. Central Time, which is where I'm at. So super excited to be hanging out today and about to do a little reaction to one of the newest MrBallen videos that dropped. I think it was last week. But yeah, it's top 4 bingeable scary stories. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that today and hanging out with you guys. So yeah, if you are new, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, all those things, the follow buttons, do all the buttons, please. Help out the channel because I would much appreciate it. But yeah, we are going to switch over now and start watching this video. All right, got that set up. Let me see this one. Okay, there we go. Let's start watching. Let's see what's going on.
We have a special video for you guys. It'll be a collection of 4 fan favorites about supernatural encounters. These stories have all been completely re-edited, so even if you have heard or seen them before, it'll be a brand new viewing experience. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button is doing stand-up comedy, as they're getting ready to deliver a joke, yell out the punchline. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories.
Yeah, let's see, man. Let's see. The Moreno Valley Poltergeist, whatever that might be. So yeah, let's see.
In 2006, Susan Lewis and her daughter Jamie moved into a new home in Southern California. It was this nice little house that they referred to as their sanctuary. They loved it there. And shortly after moving in, Susan's new boyfriend, Matt, he moved in as well. Matt and Jamie got along great. Also, Matt had a daughter named Marie, who was the same age as Jamie. And so those two got along great. Susan and Matt are getting along great. One happy family living in this beautiful little home that they call their sanctuary. I mean, it's a charmed life. Everything was
It seems like every time I watch these videos, it always starts out the same way. Like, oh, everything is awesome, everything is great, everything is cool, and then all of a sudden it turns into the most bizarre and crazy thing possible. So, I'm waiting for this one to take that turn.
Change when the peanut butter spilled. A few weeks after moving in, it's this beautiful summer day, and Matt and Jamie and Marie are all outside goofing around in the pool, and Susan steps away from them to go into the house to make lunch for the group. Susan goes into the kitchen and she sees on the counter that a peanut butter jar had its lid off and had been turned on its side. And oddly enough, the peanut butter seemed to be
That's
running out of the jar like it had been melted. It was like in a liquid state, pouring out of the
weird.
jar and had gone
Already
all over the
weird.
ground. She
Not even
freaked
gonna get into it. Not even gonna get into what the peanut butter looks like. But if you got a peanut butter jar sitting on a cabinet and it looks like it's been like liquefied, that's a problem. That's a major problem, especially with the way it's like leaking out and dripping onto the floor. Like I said, I don't even want to talk about what it looks like.
in the air and it wasn't very hot. So she figures one of the kids must have come in here and for whatever reason microwaved the peanut butter and then dumped it on the counter. And so she reflexively turns around. She's like, Jamie, her daughter, Jamie, get in here. Jamie comes inside and she's like, what, mom? And she's like, did you do this? And Jamie would say that she literally laughed at her mom. Like, why would I do that? And her mom's like, well, I don't know. Do you know if Marie did this? And she's like, no, we've been outside. So she shoos her daughter away and she calls in Marie. And Marie, too, is like, no, I didn't touch the peanut butter. Susan ultimately.
So if we had to take bets right now, what's going to be the problem? What's what's going to happen here? Because I'm guessing they're going to say it's something like supernatural or like some kind of spirit, like some kind of crazy stuff that's enjoys peanut butter and melting peanut butter, I guess. Like I've heard of a lot of stuff, but this one, the way this one is starting, this is definitely a different one because I have no clue what's causing it.
Just kind of says, okay, the kids don't want to own up to it. It's a great day today. I'm not going to let this ruin it. And so she's kind of rationalizing what's going on. She's thinking, okay, one of the kids must have knocked it over without meaning to, and maybe it was warmer in here and I just didn't realize it and it melted. Any number of things could have been the reason for this, but I just don't care. After cleaning up the peanut butter, Susan leaves the house and they, all four of them, spend the rest of the day goofing around outside near the pool. When they come back in the house later that day, they find that there have been cans that you would keep in your pantry, like canned food, stacked on each of the steps leading upstairs.
Okay. So we got the peanut butter first. The peanut butter that was liquefied and dropped or that was on the counter and like opened up and liquefied and dripped onto the floor. Now you got a can trail leading up the steps. Like yeah, all I know is that once I saw that happening, I am not going up those steps without some sort of weapon or without some extra people with me because there is no way that you got these cans lined up and going up the steps without it. Like there's no way. No way. No way that I'm cool with just going up there and cruising up there and acting like everything is all good. Like, oh yeah, let me pick up this can. Let me pick up the can. Let me pick up. Nah, ain't happening. Telling you right now, ain't happening. I need some protection. Where the Ghostbusters at when you need them?
They also find that there have been random objects placed all over the house in strange patterns. In the bathroom, they find shampoo bottles stacked on top of one another, hairbrushes arranged in a star pattern on the counter. They open the microwave and find peanut butter jars and other random canned foods and stuffed animals from the.
So now we got stuff straight up packed into the microwave. Oh, and this is the real picture too. Like, okay, like it's cool when they do like the AI stuff and they like use the AI stuff to generate like images and like blend those in with some of the real stuff too. Like that's awesome. So she actually took her camera out and took a picture of this stuff that has been like stuffed into the microwave. Like, yeah. Obviously something is going on. And if you can't verify to me that it's actually a like a person, like, it's got to be a person playing a prank. Got to be a joke. Got to be a person playing a prank or something because that is odd. That's odd. If it just like for real was lined up, stacked up into into the microwave like that, that's a problem.
Kids' rooms in the microwave. The cleaning materials underneath the sink had been pulled out and arranged in a height line from shortest to tallest on the kitchen floor. Also,
okay, so they're arranging stuff in orders now too. Okay, so we got an OCD ghost in the building. We can't just haunt you by putting stuff, just, you know, like taking it out the cupboards and all that stuff. We got to put it in height order. Oh man, ghost with a sense of humor, I guess.
There were just strange liquids all over the walls. It looked like maybe ketchup or other sauces. They couldn't really tell what it was, but it was sprayed all over the house. There was
Mm-mm.
shampoo on the walls and soap on the walls. And so when Susan and Matt and the girls
Mm-mm.
go inside, they think that someone's invaded their house. So they run back out again. They're kind of looking around the property, wondering what they should do. And no one's come near their property. And they would have seen someone come to their property. So they start filming it. They go in and they film what's going on. That's why we have all these pictures. And they have no idea what to make of this. Matt believes it's Jamie, so not his biological daughter. Susan believes it's his daughter, Marie, and it starts this awful.
So they think the kids are the ones that's messing around and doing this stuff. Okay.
Of what would turn out to
Okay.
be a major fracture in this family because it just continued to grow. You got to put yourself in their position. If you're Matt or Susan, you don't want this to be anything other than one of the kids did this. If it's not one of the kids, it means you had an intruder in your home. If it's not an intruder, then what caused it? They believe that the other child is doing this. They believed it so much that they did not see reason, but more than that, it would keep Matt and Susan from handling this the way I think anyone should have, which is get the police involved. They don't.
Now see, okay. Now that's one where I'm going to differ, because I don't necessarily think that you need to get the police involved in a situation like this, especially that early on. And you got like little kids in the house, you got like all sorts of, like, you got adults in the house too. So it's not like you live by yourself. If you live by yourself and there was nothing like going on, like you got nobody coming in and out of your house, and you come home one day and everything is like taking out the cabinets, lined up, you got you know, random ketchup on the walls, you got shampoo on the mirrors, then I'm calling the police immediately, because I know for certain that nobody has been in my house, or nobody at least should have been in my house. And that is going to be a cause for somebody to have obviously came into my house. Whether that somebody is a ghost, whether that somebody is an actual person or not, I don't know for sure. But that would give me a pause. Okay. But in this situation, I kind of agree with the parents and the adults in the house, because they know that they got kids there. They know that there are other people in the house too. So like, my first thing that I would think, being in a house right now with myself with 5 other people, I would immediately think that it's one of them. Like, I wouldn't jump to just immediately call the police and be like, hey, something's going on here. Like, no, I wouldn't do that. Only because I know that there's a bunch of other people here. So it's obviously, most likely, 99% of the time would be somebody else who's in this house, unless it's a ghost. And that's a totally other different situation. And I'm guessing that's what we're kind of getting to in this one.
So they start cleaning it up, and the house was really a mess. So it took quite a while to clean it up. And they ultimately just kind of moved on in that way that people who are in denial move on because you're in denial. That's what they were doing. So a week passes since finding their house in disarray with cans and jars all over the place and liquids on the walls. And Jamie and Marie are spending some time together in Jamie's room. Marie was sitting at a desk that was next to the bed, and Jamie had a cup of coffee. She puts the cup of coffee down on the desk next to Marie and says, I have to go use the bathroom. She turns around, she walks out, she comes back, and Marie has her head down in her homework. She's not apparently paying attention to anything around her. And Jamie walks in and sees that the cup of coffee that had been sitting on the desk has now been thrown all over her bed. And there's only been one person inside of the room, and that's been Marie. She's like, Marie, what are you doing? Why'd you throw my coffee all over the bed? And Marie pokes her head up, and she's like, what are you talking about? And she looks over at the coffee. She's just as surprised as Jamie is. She's like, I didn't do that. Jamie doesn't believe Marie. She's mad at her because Jamie believed that Marie was the one responsible for placing the cans and everything all over the house. And so this was just another.
See, logical, exactly logical. I would immediately think that this is somebody else causing this issue and this problem. I would not think that it's going to be someone else, or it's going to be like some outside entity that's causing these issues. So like, I totally get it. I totally understand it.
Another example of her trying to get attention or something like that. Jamie leaves the room to get some bleach. She comes back and she puts the bleach down on her dresser. She had all her drawers open with her clothes out. And she has this bottle of bleach sitting right at the top of this dresser. And so she goes over to the bed, picks up the cup itself that had the coffee. She puts that back on the table, turns around to get the bleach, and the cap has been turned off, and it's now dumping bleach all over her clothes. It's just pouring out. Marie had been sitting in the chair the whole time. And
Okay. So, and it's usually one thing when you hear like these ghost stories and stuff, it's always a situation where you have a person who is like, there's something going on like in the other room. Like I have my office here that I stream in, and right outside of my office is the living room and like family room, and then over here is the kitchen. So like that would be like me hearing something drop in the kitchen, and then but nobody's there, and then I go over there rush, and then I see like the after effects and everything that's going on with it and everything that's happened. This is different because it seems like there are actually people in the room. And if there's actually people in the room and these things are like flying around and dropping and falling, like that's a whole different can of worms. Whole different situation.
Jamie had seen her the whole time. And so when she sees the bleach dumping all over her clothes, she knows it could not have been Marie. So she screams. Marie looks over. She sees what's going on. She screams. Susan hears this and comes charging in the room, and she's like, "What's?"
Yeah, that's different. When you actually start witnessing some things, like I can't remember what movie that is. Is that The Exorcist, where you got like things falling off the walls and like pictures shaking and things, drawers emptying like out of the blue, like, and you're there watching it, like that's a whole different situation. That's a whole different situation. Now we talking about, now is when you call the police. Now is when you get somebody else involved, because there is no way that I'm cool with whatever this is going on.
Going on? The girls can't describe what's going on, and as they're standing there, a picture frame falls off the wall, and it startles them all. They're looking over, and then another picture falls. It's
Yep.
one thing to have one picture fall, but
Yep.
two fall in close succession to one
Yep.
another. That's
You got a poltergeist at this point. This is a whole different situation. And like these stories, I don't know about you guys, like they call them scary stories and like it's crazy, but like hearing the stories is secondhand doesn't bother me. What would bother me is like witnessing these things, or like actually knowing some of the people that were involved in these stories and these situations. Like that would get me. That would mess me up.
That's not a coincidence. Susan sees the pictures fall. She hears her kids in hysterics, and they run out of there. They get in the car and actually just leave the house because the girls just did not want to be there. This was a big moment in this story because to this point, Jamie, without saying anything, believed Marie was responsible for placing everything around the house and making a mess in the house. Marie felt the same way about Jamie. Again, they didn't say it to each other, but it's how they rationalized it. Susan was doing the same thing, but for both of the kids. She basically believed that either Marie or Jamie had placed the cans all over the house. Now, Susan is starting to believe that something else is going on in the house. And Marie and Jamie absolutely believe something is going on in the house.
Oh yeah.
Actually suggested.
Yeah, you at this point there's no doubting, there's no denying that there is some sort of issue, some sort of problem going on. Before, like, could have been a prank, could have been a joke. Like, nah, at this point, something's going on. I don't know who you call in a situation like this. Like, people talk about calling the police, because I know the second that you call the police or whoever else it might be, everything is going to stop. Then there's going to be no more problems, no more issues. That's always how it works. It's not like you can be like, okay, I got stuff flying off my walls. Let me get 30 people to come over here, and then it's going to start flying off the walls for you guys too. Like, no, it always happens. Like, it's just a small group of people, or maybe just one person that sees this stuff, and then everybody else looks at them like they're crazy. Which is so uncool, man, because obviously if this is like really happening, I need some witnesses. I need some people to see what's going on, and preferably people outside of my family group to see what's happening and what's going on.
That we believe our house is haunted. At some point after driving around, Susan and Jamie and Marie go back to the house. Matt has been at work the whole time.
Wherever you're watching right now, please like it, subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do, man. I would appreciate all the support that I can get on the channel.
He's not there. When they get back to the house is once again covered in cans all up the stairs, placed in weird orientations on the ground, things in the microwave.
Yeah, now we getting wild. Now we getting wild.
Liquids all over the wall, and they hadn't been there, and neither had Matt. Now combine it with the fact that you just had this coffee and bleach incident, and the pictures falling off the wall. They're talking about the house being haunted. You can imagine what it was like to walk into that house and see it like that all over again when it could not have been Jamie or Marie or
Right.
Susan. When Matt came
So now you building up the truth. Now you building up all the truth behind it, because you got a situation now where you know that you're ruling out people who this could have been. So like, you know that the kids aren't involved, you know that the adults aren't involved, because you guys left the house and then you came back and all this stuff is going on. So now, like I said, now is when you get the police involved, because either we got a ghost or we got somebody who's like hiding out in my house that has some sort of obsession with with canned goods and putting stuff on walls and stuff.
home that night, he was just more convinced that it had to have been Marie or Jamie or even Susan, because Susan's acting like something's going on here, something paranormal's going on here, and he wasn't there. He didn't see the coffee and bleach incident. He didn't see the pictures falling off the wall.
And of course, then he's not going to jump to there being like some sort of paranormal activity going on. He's still in his rational mind. The ladies though, they've been through this whole ordeal, so they're past that point. He's just now jumping in and feeling like he's like, oh, you know, I'm the rational one here, and I know that there's nothing going on. Little does he know.
And now he sees his girlfriend kind of buying into this idea that it's some paranormal thing. He was a really intense skeptic and was just absolutely unwilling to see this as anything other than a bad prank that now his girlfriend is even getting in on. It causes a huge fight between him and Susan. He's like, why are you letting the kids doing this? Why are you feeding into this? She's saying, you don't get it. There's something wrong with this house. Practically at each other's throats, they pick the house up again. It takes forever. They put everything back. And by the end of it, it's like no one wants to talk to each other. The kids are fighting with each other. Susan and Matt practically hate each other. And that's how that night wraps up. That night, all the power went out in the house. And all they heard all night was doors banging nonstop. And
okay, now we got another occurrence. You trying to go to sleep at night, and you all of a sudden you have all of these things happening where you got lights flashing on and out. Like they said, you got doors banging. This is another escalation. So now at this point, when like, okay, it's one thing if you in the house and like these random things are happening, you might be able to look past that, maybe. But when you get to the point where you got stuff going on while I'm trying to sleep, like, nah, we got a problem. Like, I got to go to a hotel or something at that point, because I can't lose my sleep. Like, I'm not one of those people that can function when they have like, I need to get a bare minimum of 5 hours. If I'm disturbed and I get 4 hours and 59 minutes, that next morning I'm going to be messed up because I got to get a bare minimum of 5. And from what it seems like in this, they're not gonna be able to get any sort of rest. And like, I would be so nervous, man. I feel like that whatever is going on at the house would like come to my bedroom. So yeah, at this point, you got to do something about it. You got to do something.
Stove is set to light, so all you hear is that clicking sound. They couldn't get it to turn off. I mean, right in front of them, there's all this paranormal activity, and they're recording it. They have no idea what to do. Even though we view this story and say, come on, guys. Either this is an elaborate hoax or you gotta go to the police.
Stop real quick. What you guys eating on right now? I got me a nice little bottle of water and some high chew. I'm one of those folks that like snack while they stream. So like if that annoys you, I'm sorry, but I like to get a little snack on while I'm streaming. So I'll try not to smack too loud.
You gotta do something right here. You're doing it wrong. You're in denial. You're fighting with each other. You can't do that. You gotta do something about this. But now put yourself in their position. Their world has been completely turned upside down. Everything they believe.
Does anybody know what like time period this was? Like, did this happen over the course of like one day, or has this been ongoing for a few days or anything like that?
And understood about the world is being questioned right now. They are trying to hold on to every last shred of that former life and understanding of life that they had before this haunting began. And so they don't handle this well. They just continue to fight and to be at each other's throats, blaming each other for all the things that are blatantly happening in front of them that have nothing to do with Matt, Susan, Jamie, or Marie. So at this point, Susan and Matt and the girls have not told any of their friends or other family members about what's going on. So the next day, Susan would actually go to her close friend and say, here's what's going on, and I have no idea what to do. And her friend would say, maybe you ought to try giving it a peace offering. Maybe this thing in your house.
Okay. Peace offering. So now I need to like negotiate with with this entity that decided to haunt my house. Now I got to negotiate with it. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling comfortable with doing that. Like I'm gonna need it to be eradicated and like removed from my house, but I don't know if I'm gonna. Maybe I would go about it peacefully initially, but I don't know. If that don't work. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Feels like you're intruding, and if you offer some sort of peace offering to demonstrate that you mean no harm, that you want to coexist, that maybe it'll get along with you. Maybe it'll stop.
Or
So
maybe it
whether
won't.
it's good advice or not, we don't know. But Susan finally has something that she has control over. And she really gets into this. She gets the girls. She knows Matt's going to be out for the day at work. And she knows Matt would not be cool with doing this. He would not believe that offering a peace offering is going to do any good. It would just cause more fights. And so she saw this window of time to take the girls and do this peace offering. She had this little figurine. It was a cat figurine. Susan loved cats, and she figured that a cat represented something she loved, and so it would be.
I don't know. Like, aren't cats like portals to the afterlife or something like that? I could have sworn that I've heard that somewhere along the line. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe I'm just totally making that up. But I could have sworn that they said that cats were like a portal to the afterlife. So I don't know if I want to invoke the spirit of a cat in a situation like this. But hey, that's just me. That's just me. I don't know.
The perfect kind of deliberate, intentional offering showing that she means no harm, they mean no harm. Let's kind of call it truce here. And she puts candles on this table, and she puts the cat right in the middle, and she doesn't know what to say or how to do it. And the girls are just sitting there like,
please leave.
And Susan just kind of says, please accept this gift. It's my gift to you. We mean no harm. And we
gonna knock it off the table.
And it just so happens that as they're performing this kind of ritual, Matt came home. He had not slept the night before. It had been a really bad night.
Heated.
Slamming of doors and all that craziness. And so he left work early. He called in sick, basically. And he comes into the house and literally sees Susan doing this kind of ritual with his daughter and his stepdaughter. And he immediately goes to like, absolutely not. We're not going to go.
See, but I get that. I get that because he's already in the mindset that they're feeding into this situation. So everything that's happening from that point on, he's in that sort of mindset. So you walk in, imagine you believe this is a whole load of crock. You walk in and you see almost like a seance being performed, and then your kids are involved too. Like, yeah, I would be mad coming from that point of view. But knowing some of the history behind it, I can kind of understand what they're trying to do. I don't think I agree with it, but I understand what they're trying to do.
To trying to interact with this thing. We're not going to act like it's real. It's not real. And so he goes over and he kind of picks up on what they're doing, that this cat figurine is at the center of attention. And, Susan and the girls are telling him, don't do anything, don't touch it. And he takes the figurine and he walks out to the back deck and he throws it onto their backyard. And Susan and the girls are.
He could at least let him finish. Like, I don't know if I would have gotten. I don't know if I would have just up in the middle of it because, then even if you don't believe, it might be something going on or happening at that point. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Because they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to make this so much worse. Everybody's attention is towards the backyard. When they all turn around to look at the mantle, Matt thinking he had solved the problem, there is a figurine, an identical one of the cat that's sitting on the table again. They all gasp. They can't believe it. And it makes sense. They watched Matt throw the figurine. Matt doesn't care. Picks it up and throws it on the ground and smashes it right then and there. And it's just this crazy sequence of events that when you hear the first-hand interviews with Susan, she can barely describe this moment because you're seeing something reappear. And then Matt is destroying it. It's like a very deliberate, aggressive act towards this thing in the house. The very opposite of what it was meant to do.
Yeah, if anything, you need to be calm. You need to be calm. You don't need to gas whatever this thing is up because obviously that's going to cause some sort of problem. Even if you don't believe in it, if you just feel like there's a certain energy, like I wouldn't want to go like riling up the energy. I might go the calming route.
And Susan would say that she knew they were going to go through hell for that. That night, after everybody finally fell asleep, Jamie wakes up in the middle of the night and goes down into the kitchen to get a snack. When she goes in there, she sees written all over the walls, everywhere, is the word cat. everywhere.
Oh man. So see, yeah. Now it's communicating with you and saying like words and stuff. Like, oh man. So that means that this person, whatever this is, was a cat lover at one point in time. It was a cat lover. So now you've made it even more angry. Nice job.
And she immediately runs upstairs. She gets her mom, she gets Matt and Marie. Everybody sees that there's this word cat written everywhere. Matt looks
Where are the real photos of this? Like, I need to see the real photos of this part.
at Jamie and says, "You're the one that found this. You did this." Susan comes to defend Jamie and says, "You're the one, Matt, that smashed the cat figurine. There's no wonder this is happening." And so this horrible fight happens where they aren't seeing what's actually going on. They're just seeing red and fighting with each other. Meanwhile, they're blatantly being haunted. In addition to cat being written
Okay,
everywhere,
real photo. All
the
right.
house had been completely ransacked. I mean, everything's been dumped out of drawers. Everywhere that you could make a mess, there had been a mess made. And no one woke up to it. They were all in bed. No one woke up to this much of a mess. It didn't
Now
make
that's
any
weird.
sense.
That's
They
weird
started-
too. That's weird too because you think that whatever is making these marks or whatever um on the walls, on the TV, like, you know, ransacking the fridge, you would think that there would have been some sort of sound that you would be able to at least hear what was happening or hear that something was happening. I know, like my house, I got cameras everywhere. So if there ever happened to be some sort of haunting, I would love to be able to go back and check my cameras and see exactly how all this stuff happened. When they're like, you know, just stuff floating, you know, does the milk just come out the fridge? You know, somebody gets a bowl of cereal and starts pouring the cereal, and then, you know, they get mad and just throw it all over. Like, what was this? But I know this obviously took place probably before that time period where you had, you know, cameras everywhere or had access to do things like that. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different, and I get that. But it just makes it a little bit more difficult to believe, of course.
cleaning up this horrible mess. And as they move some things aside in the kitchen, they find what looks to be a huge footprint. It is not Matt's footprint. It's certainly not one of the girls' footprints. It's easy for us to say, well, why didn't you go to the police? But you got to remember that when you're in real crisis mode, your brain will tell you that everything is fine. It will be in complete denial.
Okay. Now, at this point, I would have talked to the police because if I'm seeing a footprint, that is telling me that there's some sort of like human interaction somehow, some way, that there has to be some sort of human involved. And I mean, I only say human because, you know, people have footprints. So, um, I'm guessing it wasn't like you know, it's not like a crazy raccoon or something got into my house that knew how to write the word cat and had, you know, loved stacking cans up my steps. Like, no, you knew that this had to be something with, you know, a human or, you know, maybe even a ghost at this point. But I would have enough evidence and feeling at this point to be like, hey, this is what's going on. At the very least, this is what's going on. And then also, I need some kind. I mean, I could call a news station if this was like back in the '80s or, you know, early '90s or something like that, before like video cameras. Just call a news crew and be like, "Hey, y'all want to come hang out over here? see what I see for a little bit."
Of things that are right in front of you because it's a coping mechanism. And so they did nothing and just let it continue. Susan desperately wanted to leave the house, but she couldn't do it financially. They couldn't leave the house. They couldn't afford to. So they're trapped. At this point, the kids are getting very withdrawn. They don't want to be in the house, so Marie would end up staying in her room all day.
Still need to know how long this time period was where this was going on.
There was just nothing being done to correct the situation, and everybody was so upset and angry with each other. It was just a worst case scenario. So in the last couple of weeks that they ever stayed at this house, because they would leave, two major events occurred. The first one happened when Marie was home alone. She was only going to be there for a couple hours by herself, and even though Susan and Matt did not want to leave her alone, they didn't have another choice, and Jamie wasn't there. So Marie's going to be home alone, and it's nighttime. So this is like straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah, and no way, no way, no way. There's no way that you need to have anybody staying at that place by themselves. There's no way.
Sitting in the living room watching TV, and at some point the TV starts turning off and on. So off on, off on, off on, and she knows because she's been in this house now and seen the craziness that something bad's about to happen. And the TV finally just turns off. She can't get it on. She reaches for the remote. The remote flies off the table. And now she's just sitting there frozen because she knows that something's in the house with her. She watches as the rocking chair right in front of her just starts to rock back and forth, as if the person or thing that had pulled away the remote had walked over and sat down in the rocking chair and was now looking at her rocking back and forth. Marie is looking at the rocking chair as all the pictures on the walls just start one by one falling off the wall. Marie and Jamie had a habit of always having a digital camera with them at all times because they were taking pictures and filming everything strange happening in their house. And so as she's laying there, just absolutely horrified, she takes her camera in her hand and kind of turns it and starts taking
Where's this picture?
Before running out of the room to get her phone, where she calls Susan, she calls her dad, she calls everybody, she's screaming into the phone, you gotta get here, something's going on. And Susan flies home, Jamie flies home, they rush inside and they grab her and she's unhurt, but the house has once again been tossed. And then, after it all kind of settles down, Marie says, I took pictures. And so Susan and Matt...
They better have these pictures. We've seen everything else, so they better have these pictures too.
And Jamie, look at these pictures. There are these weird orbs of light that are very clearly in the room with her, that are moving around the room.
Oh, now that's wild. Like I've seen pictures where people talk about there being like orbs in the picture and stuff like that. And a lot of times I think that's just like refracted light or maybe dust on a lens or something like that. But like, nah, this different. This is definitely different. Like the way it's like almost like spiny in this picture. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. Now that's interesting. That's the first picture that I've seen so far that was like, oh yeah, something is really going on. Like obviously I believe the story and I believe that there were, different things happening, different things going on, but this is the first picture that I saw that's like, oh yeah, I don't know if that could be faked or recreated or anything like that. Like that's wild.
Managed to get a couple pictures of them and they're just totally out of this world. At this point, Matt is convinced that there's something paranormal happening in the house.
Matt is a believer too.
That this is Jamie, because it wasn't. It wasn't his daughter. It wasn't anybody. How can you explain these pictures? You can't. And so Matt decides, well, I don't know who we call for this, but I think you call the church. And so he tried calling a bunch of priests and
okay. Like I get calling a church and you want to, perform a seance in the house. You need to go get your sage out and get these spirits away. But at what point do you call the police? That's my question. And if you're watching right now, I would love for you to answer that question. At what point do you decide to call the police? Because I think once I had multiple people in the house who were able to like witness these things happening, that's the point where I'm like, okay, we need to talk to the police and try to have someone else from outside of our group see and experience whatever is happening. I think that's the point where I'm like, okay, we're good to get some other folks involved. And like I don't know if I would have went directly to like trying to get the church involved or anything like that, but that'd probably be my second stop.
Pastors and try to get anybody to come over, and the best he could do was get a pastor to come over and pray with them before leaving and saying, we can't help you. And so they were totally on their own and they can't afford to leave. They know something horrible is happening here and they're just trapped. And finally, the second major event that occurred in those final 2 weeks happened to Jamie when she was home alone. Jamie was in her room and she starts hearing pounding on her door. She started filming this pounding on her door. There's no one home with her. And you just hear in her voice that she's terrified and someone is pounding.
Did they say that she was filming it? Oh man, yeah. This is what I need to see.
Over and over on the door, on her bedroom door. And at some point...
Well, see, what I don't like about that is that wherever they got that video from, and I don't know if they like pulled the actual video or anything like that, or if this is from like, I know this story has been covered on different shows and stuff because you can see by the accreditation that they've been putting on there that like Sci-Fi Channel had it, and stuff like that. So what I don't like is the sort of like music in the background too. Like, no, I want the raw video. I want the raw audio. I want to hear everything just naturally how it is. No extra stuff added on or anything like that.
She knows she has to go into the hall. And so she goes over to the door. She's building the strength to reach down and open the door. And as soon as her hand would go near the doorknob, the pounding on the other side of the door would stop, like it knew she was about to come out into the hall. And so she didn't open the door, and she went back onto her bed, and she just sat there in the fetal position for 3 hours, listening to something smashing nonstop into the door. At some point, the banging stops, and after a few minutes of the banging being done, she thinks this is her chance to escape the house. She opens the door, and there's no one there. But the door on the outside, where the knocking had been happening, there's this huge dent and divot in the door. And the door handle on the outside, from the hallway side, has been bent downward. On the ground in the hall is a pile of utensils, pots, pans, silverware, knives. This thing had been using tools to try to open the door. Next door to her room was a bathroom, and the bathroom door did not have a doorknob on it. You basically just pushed it shut. But there was a space for a doorknob that you could actually look through. They just hadn't put it on there yet. And she noticed in the bathroom that the light was flickering. And she thought, I think it's in there. And she decides she's going to try to trap this thing. So she goes to her desk where she had some string. She goes back over and loops the string through this hole in the door and leans back and pulls the door shut, thinking she's trapped this thing inside. As soon as she does, she starts feeling resistance on the door. Someone is pulling back. And at some point, the string gets cut and she falls back into her room. At which point, the bathroom door swings open and she says, I'm about to come face to face with something out of my nightmares. But before she could see this thing come out of the bathroom, her bedroom door slams shut and she hears the rustling of pans and tools and metal clinking against each other right outside her door. She knows this thing is interacting with all those tools and pots and pans right on the other side of her door.
All right. Time for somebody to get a little courage and go deal with this thing, because if it's there, like my frustration would be like out through the roof at this point in time, because obviously this has been going on for weeks at this point. I would be, my frustration would be beyond just going into a corner and cowering and crying at this point.
Horrifying thought. And after just
but that's just me.
She sees smoke coming into her bedroom. And so she immediately runs to the door to try to open it. And when she does, she sees that now there is a frying pan sitting in the hall that has a toilet paper roll completely on fire. And that there's been toilet paper strewn all over the hallway. Like this is a wick, and it's going to light the hallway.
Where the pictures at?
She grabs a sweatshirt and she smothers the fire. At this point, she's in full survival mode. She knows she has to get out of this house. It's trying to kill her. And so she walks down this hall, pulling aside all of the toilet paper, getting ready to come face to face with this horrible thing. She goes into the living room. The whole thing has been covered in toilet paper, paper towels. Papers have been strewn everywhere. This thing was trying to light the house on fire with her trapped inside. And so she manages to make her way through this maze of toilet paper. She sees there's no other fire set. And she goes outside, defeated, and just sits on the front steps.
Maybe just need to go to the bathroom.
For her mom to come back. Susan, Matt, and Marie were all together, so they came back and they saw Jamie sitting on the front steps, just crying. They go inside, they see the scene. Jamie explains what happens, and that was it. They knew they were going to have to go bankrupt to leave the house. They did not have the money to leave, but they had to leave. And so they barely packed up and they left that house. It didn't sell. Susan literally went bankrupt. And soon after they left the neighborhood, their neighbors left the neighborhood, and 5 other neighbors in their immediate vicinity all left. All of the houses did not sell. They are all vacant. No one knows why. Susan, Jamie, Matt, and Marie, since leaving that neighborhood, even though they were ruined financially, they were very happy to get out of there. They've had no other paranormal activity since they left, and they're just glad they got out of there with their lives.
That's wild. That's wild. I don't see, that's where finances come into play in a situation like this too, because I know that they probably stayed there a lot longer than they wanted to because they didn't have the financial means to just up and leave. But I don't blame them at that point. If you take everything at face value and being actually true, I don't blame them for, even going bankrupt to leave a situation like that, because if it's true, it just seemed like it was a ticking time bomb. Like it was just a matter of time before this thing was going to hurt them or hurt someone to the point where, maybe they wouldn't be here anymore. But yeah, I don't really blame them. But that's just such a tough pill to swallow, man. Such a tough pill to swallow, because I think about my home, and if my home was, invaded by some sort of paranormal entity or something like that, that for me to just up and leave and to take the loss on that, like, no, that'd be real difficult for me to do. But I guess once you get to a certain point, it's the only thing that you can do. So yeah, good story, man. That was an interesting story. I know that for sure. I don't know um what I would do in that situation, but I'm curious to know what you would do. So please let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're notified each and every time we go live in 2025. My name is JD, and I appreciate you for hanging out. All right, let's get into this next one real quick. And like I said, man, there's supposed to be 4 stories, and now it's pretty long. So I guess we got a few more coming up, and I'm gonna fast forward just a little bit. I guess this one is called Who Was Calling? All right, let's check this one out.
911 dispatchers hear a lot of interesting stories coming from the other end of the phone. But one group of dispatchers...
MrBallen in his chest hair be killing me, though. I don't know if anybody else ever watched this stuff, but every time I do a reaction video, I'm just like talking to the camera or whatever. Then I go back and glance down at him, and my eyes just go right to that chest hair, man. You got those extra buttons there for a reason, bro.
Out of
Use them.
Nevada may win the award for the creepiest 911 calls ever received. When the details of these calls they got were put online, the internet went crazy. Here is their story. There was this old couple that lived about 20 miles east of
Real photo of Reno.
In 2010, the husband dies, leaving the wife all alone in this house. Shortly after his passing, she began calling 911 2-3 times a week, requesting things like
Katie in the building.
What's up, buddy?
Hey,
Good
can you
to
change
see
the
ya.
thermostat?
Good to see you. I'm glad you're doing good.
Dementia, and the dispatcher
Thanks for hanging out.
Full of her and gently told her that this is 911. You can only call if it's an emergency. And at some point, the woman would understand her mistake, and she would say sorry, and she would hang up. No first responders were ever sent out for these calls because it didn't seem like an emergency. It just seemed like a confused elderly person. But no matter how many times they told her, she kept calling back. And eventually, her calls took a turn. Instead of calling 911 to ask for help with mundane tasks around the house, she would call 911 believing she was talking directly to her deceased husband, John. The dispatcher would pick up and
That's sad. That's not even creepy. That's sad.
John. By this time, the dispatchers had gotten so many calls from this woman, they would recognize her address coming through, and they knew what to expect. They would answer the phone, they'd be respectful, and they would tell her, like they always did, this is 911, you can't call here, you need to talk to your family. And again, they did not send a responding unit out to her because it just seemed like she was confused, not in any danger. But one day when she called, she sounded frantic and scared.
John, please come home. Help me, I need help. John, come home.
This time, they would send first responders out to the woman's house. When the responding unit arrives at her house just minutes after she had placed the 911 call, they go to the door and they're knocking and they're yelling for her, and she's not coming to the door, and it's all quiet in the house. The door's unlocked, so they open it up and they announce themselves. They walk inside, and immediately they can tell the heat is not on because it's very, very cold inside the house. They look around the first floor and they can't find her, and there's no sign of a struggle or any obvious problems that could have happened inside of the house. So they go upstairs and they start searching all the rooms, and no one's there until they get to the last room, and it's the bedroom. They go inside, and there's an older woman who's lying on the bed, and she's clearly deceased and has been for several hours because rigor mortis had already set in. The police are able to confirm that the woman who's lying on the bed is the same woman who owns the house and lives there. And at this point, they call back to dispatch and they tell them, hey, you know, the woman that you claim made this 911 call, well, it can't have been her. Because based on rigor mortis, she was dead at the time that 911 call was made. But the dispatchers are like, no way. We know what she sounds like. We speak to her multiple times a week.
All right, now this, to me, this one is instantly more creepy than the other one because you have a situation where you have like an actual official organization involved. You got people who would not want to necessarily like go to bat for this person, but they're doing so just because they believe the story. So like this is automatically more credible than the last story that we just got through doing.
We have a whole protocol built when we see her address come across because we speak to her so often. That 911 call that you got that led you to that house where she was, that call was made by her. What they ultimately decide is the reason for this discrepancy is she didn't have rigor mortis. She was just stiff because it was really cold inside of her house. And that she had died in those couple of minutes between leaving the 911 call and when officers arrived. But in the back of everybody's minds, they're a little freaked out. A few days go by and another call is placed to 911 coming from that woman's home address. The dispatcher sees that and has to do a double take. Like, that's not possible. But they're thinking, okay, this could be a relative, it could be a friend, it could be anything. Picks up the phone and she's shocked when it's the same woman who is frantically yelling for John to come here, save me, help me, I need help. And the dispatcher, who's well aware of the history and well aware that this woman's supposed to be dead, stays calm, goes through the procedure, tries to get more information from this woman, but the call ends abruptly and there's no more information to be had. And so not knowing what else to do, she asks a responding unit to go check this house out. The responding unit goes over to the property, they knock on the door, no one's inside, the door is actually still open, they go in, the house is empty, there's no one there, there's no one that could have made that call. At this point, dispatch is like, okay, this has got to be a prank. But the next day, same thing happens. Here comes a call from the dead woman's house. They pick it up, and it's this distraught woman yelling for help.
No, this is wild.
Dispatcher's trying to get more information, but they can't.
I wonder, do they have the actual tapes of this too?
They have to send responders to this location because this woman has called 911 and is saying that she needs help. And once again, the officers get to the house and it's vacant. Just like when she was alive, these calls would persist multiple times a week. They continued even after her house was broken into and burned to the ground. There's not even a house anymore. And there are still calls coming through from that address to 911. Finally, the police get in touch with the phone company and they explain the situation, and the phone company looks at their records and they say, actually, her phone line was disconnected almost immediately after she was deceased. But they tell police there's a chance that it might not have been disconnected properly at the site, and that could be a reason why it's still working. So
yeah, maybe it's just a situation where like some kind of wires are crossed. Like I don't know if you guys have ever had a situation like this happen, but I've been on my phone, like a regular cell phone, and have been in a call with someone like that I deliberately called, and then in the middle of that conversation it almost gets like transferred over to someone else, and like I end up talking to someone else for like maybe 5-10 seconds, and then like it'll go back to the person who I'd originally called. And like I know that's happened to me at least 2 times that I can remember, and like legitimately I was on the phone like, who is this? And like I remember one time I'm in the Midwest, and I ended up being on a call with somebody who was in like New York or New Jersey, and like I could tell because I could tell the accent, and I asked them like, who is this? And like, where are you at? And got the answer, and yeah, it was like New York or New Jersey or something like that. And I was just like, what the heck? And then it like just faded away, and then I went back to my other person that I was talking to, and I was like, could you hear me? They was like, no, I couldn't hear anything on the phone. So the lines do get kind of crossed sometimes, but I don't know if a situation like this is those lines crossed. And maybe, you know, the phone can pick up some sort of like some kind of like spiritual energy or something like that, and that's what this woman who's crying out to her husband is trying to do.
To go check out the actual property to confirm her lines were disconnected properly and that no wires were getting crossed, and he said all of it checked out. Everything has been detached this whole time. The phone company thought perhaps there was a digital recording of her that got trapped in their system and was randomly bouncing to their call center. But the dispatchers would say, you know, it doesn't sound like a recording that's playing the same every single time. It's always the same message. She's yelling for her husband to come save her. But the way she sounds is always different. It's a unique phone call every single time. So because there wasn't a
I want to hear these tapes. They better have these tapes.
Call like it was serious. And so multiple times a week for a year, they received these ghost calls and had to send out responding officers to check on her, even though the house was gone and there was nothing there and there was never anyone there. It was just a vacant lot. And then finally, a year after this woman has died, the calls just abruptly stopped. And the police did not launch an investigation into what it was, because the reality is police need to prioritize things that are threats to people or places. And this really wasn't either of those things. It was just really bizarre. And so the official explanation for how a dead woman could be calling 911 from a non-existent phone line in a non-existent house for a year is, we don't know.
That's weird. See, and I don't like the fact that they don't have like any sort of like ending or resolution to a story like that. Like, that's not cool. Like, I want to know what happened.
A police officer in Salt Lake City, Utah. His first role was as a protective service officer, which meant he'd be in charge of physical security in a number of the county facilities. Dave's first facility was the Capital City Theater, which is a landmark inside of Salt Lake City. It's been around since the early 1900s. It's this beautiful, grand theater. So in early August, Dave reports to the Capital City Theater for his first day on the job, and he meets his partner, an officer by the name of Morgan Matthews. He gets there on this first day, and right away, Dave would say that Morgan was just strictly business. The first place that Morgan takes Dave is the control room, which sits on the first floor of the theater. The theater had 3 floors, and then it also had a basement as well. So the control room was on that first floor. Inside of the control room were all of the security monitors, because there was all these cameras set up inside of the theater. The cameras weren't great though. You pretty much could only tell what was in frame if there was a light on, and most of the time at night especially, lights were off. Once they were done looking at the control room, Morgan says to Dave, now we're gonna go do our rounds. This is something we do every time you get to the theater. You do a security round and make sure everything's locked, all the lights are off. Before you come back to the control room, you'll do that at the beginning of your shift and at the end of your shift. Morgan brings Dave downstairs, and it's the first time Dave is seeing the basement, and he's shocked by how big it is. It is this massive hallway that stretches way down. In the middle of the hall is a piano that's just sitting out in the middle, and the lighting's not good down there. This is a very old theater. You know, everything in the building was pretty old. And Dave remembers thinking that he was immediately creeped out by this scene, this long hallway with all these doors and this piano right in the middle of the hallway. And he's thinking to himself, I don't want to spend much time down here. This is so creepy. But they go down the hall, they check all the doors, they make their way up to the main floor, the second floor, the third floor, everything gets checked. And so after they do this security round, Dave and Morgan go back to the control room, and Dave is anticipating getting to know Morgan a little bit. This is their first night. They're going to be working together a lot. And Dave would say that Morgan just seemed really cold and just did not want to talk to Dave very much. And as soon as their shift was almost over, Morgan was very eager to just knock out the security rounds and just get out of that building. At the end of that night,
Okay, nothing weird so far. Nothing weird.
There's something off about Morgan's behavior. It seemed like Morgan really didn't like being in the theater. And it would turn out that he was onto something, because Morgan didn't like being in that building. But it would take him a while to share with Dave why. Over the next couple of days, Morgan and Dave would do their security rounds together, because Dave's in training, Morgan's teaching him. But on
And he don't want to be alone.
2 days after Dave's first day on the job, Morgan was confident that Dave knew how to secure the whole building. And so at the end of the night, he tells Dave, why don't you do the security rounds yourself? Dave feels very confident that he knows how to do it. He goes down into the basement, makes sure all the doors are shut and locked, that the lights are off, finishes the basement, goes up to the first floor where the control room is, and checks all the rooms on that floor. He goes into the main auditorium.
Still nothing weird. Come on, MrBallen. Speed it up a little bit.
There's nobody hiding in there. He goes up to the second floor. He checks all the different rooms up there and the balcony. Makes his way up to the third floor, where there's all the offices of staff that work at the theater. At the end of the search, the last room he would check was the rehearsal room. And it was the only room where there was no door to it. So you'd poke your head in, kind of look around, make sure no one was in there, and then you would leave, and that's the end of your check. So Dave gets to the rehearsal room, he flips the light on, and he looks inside, doesn't see anybody, is satisfied that no one's in there, turns the light off, and as he's about to turn back into the hallway, he hears a door slam with tremendous force right across the hallway from where he was. And it was
I don't like doors slamming anyway, so yeah, that would have had me super nervous too.
Someone who had snuck into the building must have run out of the bathroom, and they're making a break for it to get out of the theater before I catch them. And so he instinctively picks up his radio and he calls to Morgan and says, someone's on the third floor. But when Morgan looks at the camera, he doesn't see anybody. At this point, Dave's drawn his weapon, and he's looking down the hall. He doesn't see anybody. And as he's waiting for Morgan to come upstairs to back him up so they can go look for this person that's just ran down the hall, he realizes 2 things. One, just because he heard the door slam doesn't mean they left and slammed it. They could be in the bathroom. And so he's thinking to himself, someone could be in the bathroom right now. That's why we didn't see him on the camera. And then the second thing he thought of is that door, the bathroom door, can't slam. It's got this huge hydraulic hinge to it. It can't slam.
Okay, so beyond the whole slamming part stuff, like if there's someone in there and I have a weapon, I don't think that I would have too much of a problem going to check it out and to see what's happening. I don't think I'd have too much of an issue doing that. The fact that the door has like a hydraulic hinge on it, so it shouldn't be able to slam, that would give me pause. But I definitely would not have thought about that during that point in time. Like I just would have thought, like, why are they slamming the door? And that they're probably inside there right now, and I need to go and check it out. And I got a weapon, so I would feel relatively safe doing so.
So his gun is drawn and he's aiming it at the bathroom door right as Morgan comes up on his right. Morgan draws his pistol, he's got it on the door as well, and they make entry into the bathroom. They clear all the different spaces in the bathroom and no one's in there, and there's no way to get out of there. Morgan and Dave are like, okay, well, they must not have come in here. They must have run out of the bathroom. They're somewhere in the theater. And so they decide they're going to search the entire building and find this person that clearly was just in the bathroom, and that's how they slammed the door. We're not going to worry about how they slammed the door with the hydraulic hinge. We just know it was slammed somehow.
Yeah.
So they leave the bathroom, guns still drawn, and they start making their way down the hall. They're checking all the doors. Everything is locked. When they start making their way downstairs to the second
So far, this is a weak one, man. Like all this over a door slamming, I don't know. I need a little bit more. MrBallen gonna have to turn up the spice on this one because he losing me with this one.
floor, Dave recognizes through the door, because there's a door leading onto the second floor, he can see that the lights are on, and he had turned them off. And so as they're walking down the stairs, he says to Morgan, hey, did you turn the lights on the second floor? And Morgan's like, no. And so they think that whoever was here, whoever was in the bathroom is on the second floor. They must have turned the lights on. They go into the second floor, and not only are the lights on, but all the doors on the second floor had been opened. They search the entire second floor. They search every single room. No one's on the second floor. They turn all the doors, everything's locked. When they went down to the first floor, everything was the way it should have been. Locked, lights off, nothing down there. And they go down to the basement, and even though it was creepy being down there because they've now searched the whole building, and they're anticipating coming in contact with whoever is here, assuming they haven't left the building yet, and there's no one down there. They decided to review the footage from the third floor to see if they could pick up someone running in the hall.
I mean, why are you wasting time reviewing footage too? Because if you still think that this person is inside of the building where you're at, like you need to do something about that instead of going back to review the footage. So yeah, I don't know about that part.
Around the time that door slammed, but the camera was not trained on the bathroom door.
Of course it wasn't.
You just have this view down the hall. You can't see the bathroom specifically, not to mention the hallway is dark and the cameras are terrible without light. And so all they're able to see is the light go on in the rehearsal room while Dave is doing his last check in there. The lights turn off because Dave's about to turn around, and then after that you just hear this massive slam of this door, but you can't see what happened. So they don't know what to make of it. They're both very much on edge that someone might still be in the building. And so they do another sweep of the building and no one's there. And so they decide to just chalk it up and say, we were hearing things and seeing things. I'm sure it's fine. Let's just get out of here. And they leave. A couple of days later, on August 11th, Morgan is working alone. Dave wasn't coming in that day, so Morgan's alone in the theater doing a shift. And at some point in the night, as he's sitting in the control room, he thinks he hears whispering in the hall right behind him. And so after the experience he had with Dave a couple nights ago, he's on edge. So he draws his pistol right away. And so he goes out into the hallway, and immediately when he steps into the hall, the whispering seems to go farther and farther away from him down the hall. So he gets out there, he's looking,
leading him away, man. I don't know how I feel about that one.
down into the basement, or if he wanted to go up to the second
And
floor.
especially at this point, like he's by himself. Like, I mean, it's there's definitely safety in numbers for sure. Like I've been in situations before where you had to do something where you didn't necessarily feel comfortable doing it, but you got somebody with you, so you can handle it a little bit better. But like by myself in that building, like that, and I'm thinking that there's an intruder, and I don't know exactly how many people are there. Like that's rough. That's rough.
And when he gets to the top of the stairwell, he's gun drawn, looking down, looking up. He hears what sounds like coughing coming from the basement. And at this point, Morgan said that he was actually pretty scared. I mean, imagine being alone in this theater. Just a couple of days earlier, you've had this weird experience with slamming doors and doors being opened and lights going on, that somebody else, another police officer, witnessed with you. You're alone in this theater and you're hearing coughing coming from the basement after hearing voices behind you. That's pretty terrifying.
Maybe they just got a cold.
He slowly starts going down the stairwell. He's getting ready to clear the corner, and just as he does, the coughing stops. He turns the lights on and he looks down the hall, and there's nothing there. He starts making his way down the hall. He's checking every door, making sure it's locked, making sure that everything is secure. And he gets all the way down the hall, and as he's almost done checking the basement, he smells smoke, and it's coming from a door right next to him. And so he unlocks that door and he goes in.
What is with these ghosts and fires?
He turns the light on. He's looking around. There's no fire. He's convinced that somewhere down in the basement there's a fire. He goes to every single room and he keeps checking, and there's nothing. And then at some point, the smoke smell dissipates. He checks every space in the theater to look for a fire, and there's no fire. He's wondering if he should call the fire department, but he's thinking, what would I tell
That's
him?
definitely odd.
And so he ultimately, after checking 3-4 times and being very confident there wasn't a fire, he just says, okay, no fire. I guess I was just smelling things. A few weeks later, on September 4th, Dave has just arrived at the theater. He's there a little bit early. Their shift started at...
It's crazy there's so many weeks in between these parts, too.
When he walked into the building, he sees that there are 3 staff members sitting at the front desk talking to each other. And as he walks past, one of them is talking about ghosts inside of the theater. And it immediately piques his interest. And so he walked over to the guy talking about ghosts, and he introduced himself. And it turned out that this guy was a man named Blair Fuller, who was a senior accountant at the theater. And so Dave asked Blair, what are you talking about with ghosts in the theater? Because I provide physical security here, and I've seen some strange things here. I'd just love to hear what you have to say about it. So they head up to the 3rd floor where Blair's...
Guessing they all got encounters.
And Blair says, okay, I got a doozy for you. This happened to me a couple years ago. I was actually in this office. It was about 9-10 o'clock.
Then some doors started slamming.
Some work, and I heard the elevator kick on. Now, the elevator was right outside of his office, and anytime it was on, the engine was really loud. It was really obvious if the elevator was moving around. And so he's doing his accounting work, and he hears that engine kick on. He doesn't think much of it, but then it clicks that he's the only one in the building. And so he kind of looks out the glass window of his office. He had a closed-door office with 2 windows looking out into the foyer where there's this elevator, and he looks out, and he can see that the little lights above the elevator showing what floor it's on have lit up, and it's going up. So the elevator was in the basement, and now it's on the 1st floor. Second floor, 3rd floor. The door's open, and there's no one there. And at this point, Blair says that he wasn't concerned. He figured, okay, maybe there's some maintenance, maybe it's scheduled to do that, who knows? But after a little while, the alarm goes off in the elevator to signify that something is obstructing the door from shutting. And he's looking out the window, and he hears this alarm, this like ringing sound going off, but the door isn't shutting. And he's
Nothing there, though.
Something obstructing the door. Why isn't it shutting?
Oh,
so he
man.
leaves his office, and he kind of walks over to the elevator, and he walks into the elevator. And he said immediately he felt this massive drop in temperature inside of the elevator. And as he's standing there, he turns around. Now he's looking back towards his office inside of the elevator. The doors start to shut. And for whatever reason, he said, I didn't get off.
Nope. See? Now, it's one thing that I don't necessarily believe in all this stuff all the time. But if there's some creepy stuff going on, I'm not going to be that person who's just going to say, oh, well, doors are closing. Guess I'm here. Guess I'm going to go for the ride. Nah, man. No, I'm getting off of that thing. Ain't no way you keeping me on an elevator that is operating by itself. Like, not going to happen.
I just decided I'm going to ride this elevator. The basement button lights up as if someone had pressed basement. And they start going down. And he's sitting there thinking, what in the world is going on? It was just on an alarm because the door wasn't shutting. And then miraculously, when I go inside of it, it suddenly works again.
No thanks.
The basement. So he goes to the basement. The door opens. There's no one there. He steps out, and Blair says that it took all of his courage to yell out, hey, is anyone down here? And as soon as he did, and he didn't hear a response, he said he didn't want to make any more sound. The elevator sat in the middle of the hall in the basement. It's that huge hall with that piano sitting right in the middle. The lights are off. And he pokes his head down one way. There's nothing down there. He sees the piano barely from the light of the elevator. And he looks down the other way. There's no one there. And at this point, he's just so spooked. He just gets back in the elevator. And he gets
time to go. I would have been taking the steps, though.
Like door closed, door closed, door closed. The door closes, and he goes back up to his office. He goes into his office, and he shuts the door. And he sits down, and he's thinking, like, what was that?
Why did that just happen? I got to find out if they're running maintenance or something. And as he's sitting in his chair thinking about this strange experience, he hears what sounds like banging sounds coming from outside of his office in that foyer.
Oh,
He
man.
goes to his door and he opens it up and he pokes his head into the foyer and he looks to the side and there's this big filing cabinet and all of the cabinets are out. They've all been pulled out. He certainly didn't do this. And it was as if someone was one by one pushing each of them shut, these big, heavy cabinets. And he's watching as one by one these things are slamming shut, one by one until the whole thing is shut. And so he goes over and he's like trying to disprove what he just saw, that he can open up a drawer and that it will shut on its own.
But they're
None
locked.
of them shut on their own. You have to shut it. Something has to shut it for it to shut. And so he packed up for the day and left and did not work another night shift at the theater. Later that night, Dave would share Blair's story with Morgan. He wasn't really sure how Morgan was going to react, but Morgan actually would open up and he would say, you know, before you started working here, I always felt like I was being watched when I was here. And then we had that experience, obviously, where the lights are coming on and you heard that banging from that bathroom door. And then just a few days ago, I heard voices coming from the hall, and I heard someone coughing.
Heard voices in my head.
I smelled smoke, and there was no one there. And so they start going back and forth, exchanging stories of just how uncomfortable this place made them feel. And so they're wondering what they should do about this. And Dave has this idea.
Not
He's
work
like,
there.
my best friend, I'll invite him to come over here one night, and we'll tell him that we're giving him a tour of the building, and we'll just see what he says. We'll see if he reacts to anything here. Who knows? You know, maybe something strange will happen, and then we'll have another person validate it. Morgan thinks that's a good idea, and so Dave reaches out to his best friend, Greg. Greg would say that he was a little bit surprised.
Greg looks
that David
trustworthy.
offered to come take a tour of the theater, but he was interested, and since Dave was asking, he figured he would oblige him, and so Greg agrees to come to the theater and take a tour. So the next day, Dave and Morgan are at the theater, and Greg shows up, and so they start this tour. They go in the main auditorium, they're looking around, and they make their way into the basement. Morgan turns on the light, and Morgan and Dave instantly see a little ways down the hall on the left, one of the doors has been opened. And so Dave and Morgan push Greg out of the way. They draw their pistols and they're
Okay, at this point, why are you going down to the basement? Like, why are these people coming for tours and stuff like that? Like, who does tours of these like random abandoned places like this? Like, I'm good on that. That's not something that I want to do. I don't want to go to, like, there's an abandoned theater in the city that I stay in, and like there's been no desire for me to go and like walk around that place for any reason. Like back where I grew up at home, like there was an entire abandoned mall there, and there was no reason for me to ever want to go in there. Like, that's creepy, would not want to do it. Why would I set myself up to go somewhere like that?
aimed at the open door. And so Greg just stays behind them as Morgan and Dave make their way down to this open door. And when they get right outside the door and they're about to push it open to go inside, the door slams shut right in front of Greg and Dave and Morgan. And they all are looking at each other like, what's going on? But before they can do anything, the door handle starts rattling really aggressively. After the rattling stops, Dave and Morgan look at each other and they nod their head like, we got to go in there. Greg is scared about being out.
Gotta go in there. No, I'm good.
Follows them in. And so the three of them go into this room. Dave and Morgan are, pistols drawn. It's a small room. There's no one in there. Light switch on, no one in there. Greg suddenly gasps and he points to the corner and he says, someone's sitting in the corner. And Dave and Morgan immediately train their guns on what's in the corner, but no one's there. And Greg's like, I just saw someone sitting in the corner. It looked like he had a hood on, he had like a sweatshirt on, I don't know, but he was right there. And so Dave and Morgan, they're freaked out because they brought Greg here on some level to disprove the strangeness. And now
So they brought the guy there to be like, oh yeah, you guys are crazy, like nothing's happening here. And then instead this dude comes there and he starts seeing stuff too. Like, yeah, that's when you got to get a different job. Like, I know I keep coming up with these solutions where these people like leave the house or get a different job or, remove themselves from a situation that they really can't afford to remove themselves from. But man, there's no way I'm staying there and dealing with this stuff. Like, no, got to get a different job. Get a different job. Like, I even have ghost stories where at a place where I worked previously, and they were two different things that happened, but they were far enough apart that it never really like scared me. It was more so like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, but if it had gotten to the point where I was fearful or that these like spirits were aggressive or something like that, like then I would be nervous. But I do believe in these types of things. I just have not had any sort of negative experiences with them. More so just like, oh wow, like this is really something and something is happening, but it was not like aggressive or I wasn't fearful or anything like that.
Have seen a door slam that shouldn't have been open in the first place. Greg's claiming to have seen a figure sitting in the corner. This scared the crap out of all three of them. They quickly left, locked, shut off the lights, went upstairs. Greg's like, I'm out of here. Greg leaves. And Dave and Morgan are like, now what? So at this point, all the strangeness that was happening in the theater was getting reported, but it was being reported in a way that Dave and Morgan didn't seem like they were referencing something haunted, but rather someone was breaking in. Ultimately, the county installed new cameras inside of the theater. These updated cameras had infrared technology, which allowed them to see better when the lights were off. They were hoping that this would allow them to catch whoever was breaking in practically every time Dave and Morgan are on shift. So on the day that it was installed, September 15th, Morgan is working there alone. And he's sitting in the control room looking at the different cameras, and he's kind of playing around with the different screens and seeing what each of the cameras can do. And at some point, something catches his eye in one of the screens. In the main auditorium, it appeared like someone might be sitting in one of the seats. But the camera was zoomed back enough that he couldn't get a clear picture. And he didn't know what was normal in any of these cameras because this is the first time he's looking at any of these screens. And so he's looking at the camera really closely, and he thinks he sees someone, he can't really tell, that has a hood on or a shroud on that's just sitting in the middle of the theater. And it starts turning its head like this. And he can see clear as day a set of eyes. And before Morgan has a chance to do it, it just starts raising into the ceiling and disappears. Morgan didn't even check to see what it was.
Nope.
Done. He literally quit.
Good choice, Morgan.
This is his last day at the theater. A couple of weeks after Morgan has quit, and
Good choice.
Dave is working alone at the theater. He's in the control room, and all of a sudden he hears a piano playing. And there's only one piano in the entire theater, and it's sitting in the basement. It's his job to protect this place, so he knows he has to go down and check because it could be some hooligan in the building somewhere. So he leaves the control room, and as he starts walking over to the stairs with his gun drawn, the music is getting louder and louder. The piano is getting louder and louder and louder. He makes his way down the steps, and as he's about to turn the corner, he hears the guard that protects the keys on the piano slam shut, and the piano stops. Then he turns around the corner, and he looks, and there's no one down there. He flips on the light. No one's in the hall. He knows he's not going to find anyone down here. It's this entity that's causing all this mayhem inside of the theater. Dave's seen enough. He's done. He is done with this theater. And
So Greg left, Dave left.
He goes in the control room, locks it, stays there till the end of his shift, and then he is out. And the next day, he goes to his sergeant and he says, "You can't ever put me back inside that theater or I will." And so sure enough, he was transferred. Over the next 2 months, they didn't have anyone who could do full-time security at the theater. So different random officers would be there for a couple hours, a couple of days a week, until November 26th. They found another officer, a veteran police officer named Josh Thomas, who was going to be working at the theater full-time. On November 26th, the first night that Josh Thomas was going to be there, he didn't have anyone to turn over with, so he was just alone at the theater. And it just so happens that Dave is in a patrol car near the theater. And when at some point in the night, Josh comes over the radio and says, "Hey, I need backup right now. Someone has broken into the theater." Dave knows that it's probably not someone breaking in. He knows what's going on inside that theater.
He knows it's a ghost.
And even though he did not want to go, he felt like it was his responsibility to go.
Yeah, he should go help. Go help.
And if it was what Dave thought it would be, this entity in the theater, that he would be able to explain to him what he had seen before he ultimately decided never to go back. And when Dave gets to the theater, there's this back door that they would go into, and he sees Josh is standing just outside the theater. And Dave would say that Josh's eyes were, like saucers. He looked terrified. And so Dave has an inkling of what's going on, and he goes over to Josh and he's like, "What's going on? Is someone still in there?" He said that he had been doing security rounds, and he had heard what sounded like voices when he was in the basement, and he didn't think much of it. He checked all the rooms, everything was shut. And when he made his way up to the 3rd floor, he saw that the elevator had kicked on. It was in the basement, and suddenly the light was on.
Had to go with his elevator again.
And when the elevator opened up, there was no one there. And he's standing there looking at it, and he looks inside, there's no one there, and then the alarm goes off. That's when he called in for backup. Dave says, "Look, let's just go search the building, we'll do it together." They clear the whole theater, no one's there. And before Dave leaves, they go into the main auditorium where the stage is, and they're just standing on the stage, chatting with each other. And Dave, his back is to where the audience would be. And Josh is facing Dave, facing towards the seats. Josh just suddenly stopped. Mid-sentence, he's just frozen and looking just beyond Dave's shoulder. And Dave goes, "What?" And Josh goes, "There's something behind you." Dave slowly turns around, and as soon as he does, he can tell immediately what Josh is looking at. Standing in the very back of the theater away from them,
Hooded guy.
standing in the corner with its hands by its sides, its back is to them, and it's looking down with a hood over its head. Dave turns his whole body around to look at this thing right as this thing turns around real quick and looks directly at them. It has these deep, dark, sunken eyes, and its face looks like it had been very badly burned, like it was black and charred. And it's looking at them before it just turns and runs out the back of the theater. Josh believed that that was an intruder. Dave was fairly certain that that was just another example of
Ain't no intruder.
the theater.
It's our friend.
They would search the building,
Hooded guy.
find that cloaked figure again, and that was when Dave sat Josh down in the control room and he filled him in on why Morgan had quit and why he ultimately had quit. And he also told him the story from Blair. So Josh is like, "Great, I'm glad I work here now." This was the last time that Dave would go to the theater. But Dave would do some additional digging on the history of the theater. It would turn out that in the 40s there was this horrible fire, and a man had been trapped in the basement when the fire had erupted, and he had died inside of the theater. And so Dave would share this information with Morgan and with Josh, and the three of them all believed that what they were witnessing was the ghost of that man who died in that fire.
Wow. Now that's wild. That one is a little wild, especially since it is kind of, it's true to some degree. And then you have the fact that there are police officers give the story a little bit more credibility. And then the fact that there's so many people who were involved in this and had been sort of witness to whatever this person is or whatever this spirit is. Like, that makes me believe this one more than some of the other ones that I've seen MrBallen talk about in the past. So that was interesting. That was a good one. Still nothing like earth shattering or anything like that. Like, I think the first one with the spirit that was like ransacking the house and doing all that stuff, like if that one's true, that was definitely the craziest one so far. But it looks like we got time for at least one more, so let's check this one out, and I hope this one is good too. Oh, Amityville? Come on now. Everybody knows this story already.
On the morning of November 13th, 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family were asleep in their home in Amityville, New York. The 7th member of the family, Ron, was sitting on his bed in the basement.
Ron looks creepy already.
He gets up off his bed, he grabs a rifle, and he starts walking up the stairs. He goes across the first floor, goes up the second floor stairs, and he gets to the second floor landing, and he walks right into his parents' bedroom, which was totally dark besides this little candle that had been lit next to his father's bedside. And he raises his rifle and he puts 2 rounds into his father's back. And then as soon as his father is still, he aims at his mother and he shoots her.
Crazy. Okay, first off, before we even get into this, like, you know, it's a tragedy for sure, but who has these like paintings of their parents and kids and like all this stuff in their house like that? Like, if there's anybody who's watching right now who has actually had a person do a painting of them, like of their likeness, please let me know, because I don't think that people do these types of things anymore.
And he puts the gun down and he walks out and he goes across the hall into his brother's room. He raises his rifle and he fires 1 shot into his 12-year-old brother Mark, and then he aims at his 9-year-old brother John and he fires 1 shot into him as well. Then he leaves their bedroom and he walks down the hall to another bedroom where he finds his 13-year-old sister Allison. He raises his rifle and he fires 1 shot. He leaves her room. He goes up the 3rd set of stairs up onto the 3rd floor. Finds
Crazy,
his
man.
sister Dawn, and he fires 1 shot into her, and then he was done. Altogether, it took Ron about 15 minutes to massacre his family. At no point was he panicked or running around or acting crazy. He was just walking calmly room to room, taking very well-aimed shots to ensure they didn't get up again. He put the rifle down and he went outside and he jogged to a bar, where he went inside and he put on this big facade that he had just found his family and they were hurt and could you come help him. And when they got to the house, he refused to go inside, but the people from the bar went inside and they discovered this horrible scene. And when the police show up, Ron goes over to them and he actually confesses and says, "I killed my family." Even though the DeFeo family had a reputation for being very dysfunctional, it was Ron who had the worst reputation. He was known,
of course he did,
for heavy drug use, for being a total alcoholic, and for getting really aggressive and confrontational with people. He was just a guy no one wanted to be around. And so when news got out in Amityville that this horrible thing has happened, and it looks like Ron is the one who did it, no one was really that shocked. But when details of the crime scene, specifically the way the bodies were positioned, made people wonder, is there more to this case that we don't know about? All of the DeFeo family members had been found lying face down in their beds, and none of them showed any signs of putting up a struggle against their attacker, which led investigators initially to think that they must have been sedated.
Yeah, that was my thinking too, because when I first started watching it, that was the first thing I thought, like, if I was to do that in my house and it was like 15 minutes total, like somebody in my house would wake up, and especially with all these people in separate rooms. But just so you guys know, on this channel, whenever we get a subscriber, just like we did right now, we dance it out. 553, 553, 553, 553, 553. Yes. Got a party for 553, 553, 553. Big shout out to our subscriber number 553. Yes, I appreciate you for subscribing to the channel. And just so you know,
I don't have friends. I got family.
So whoever you are, welcome to the family. Please jump in the chat and say what up if you would like to.
That Ron must have drugged them somehow before he carried out this attack. But when the toxicology reports came back, no one in the family had any substance in their system. At first, the police did not think that was a very big deal. They figured, you know what? The family just must not have heard the different gunshots. He wasn't shooting lots of rounds. It was, one single round here, one single round here, that perhaps they just didn't hear it, and that's why no one tried to escape.
Yeah, that don't really make sense though.
The rifle Ron was using, the 35 caliber Marlin, is one of the loudest rifles you can own. And in fact, investigators went out and did a test with it, and they fired it indoors, and you could easily hear it a mile away. And so investigators said, well, then it looks like they must have heard these gunshots, but for some reason,
didn't move.
Get out of their beds. They didn't try to fight back.
Weird.
Way. They just kind of took it. And then you have the weirdness of Ron's confession. On the night of the attack, when Ron is sitting on his bed and he can't sleep, and everybody else is asleep upstairs, he starts hearing a voice in his head that's saying,
"Catch them, kill them."
And he thinks he's just losing his mind. But then out of the shadows, straight across from him, from underneath the steps in the basement, this shadowy figure emerges and starts walking towards him, and he can see what looks like its mouth moving and saying the words,
"Catch them, kill them."
Okay. That. Hold on. Somehow I just like sped it up. I did not mean to do that. But that face, dude, that was wild. That was wild. Let me rewind that.
He starts hearing a voice in his head that's saying,
"Catch them, kill them."
Okay, that's not too bad. That's a little scary, but that's not too bad.
Shadows straight across from him, from underneath the steps in the basement, this shadowy figure emerges and starts walking towards him, and he can see what looks like its mouth moving and saying the words,
"Catch them."
That face, dude. Now, most things don't scare me, but if I were to see something like this while I'm trying to like sleep, or I wake up and I see this thing like in the bedroom with me, like, yeah, that would freak me out. That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Kill them.
and Ron's looking up at it as this figure walks all the way up to him and bends down and gets right next to his ear, and he says right into his ear,
"Catch them, kill them."
and then Ron said involuntarily he reached over to the rifle that was on the bed with him, and he stood up and he began walking towards the steps, and he knew what was going to happen. He was going to go kill his family, and he didn't want to do it, but he felt like he didn't have any more control over his body, and that's when he realized he was being possessed by this demon in the basement. Well, Ron's confession terrified everybody in Amityville. The idea that there was a demon living in the basement of this house.
I don't know about that one.
Someone to go kill their family. I mean, that terrified everybody, but it didn't hold up in court, and ultimately Ron was sent to jail for life. 1 year after the attacks, another family, the Lutz family, moved into the house in Amityville, but they left 28 days later because they were hearing voices coming from the basement. After hearing about the mass murder that occurred in the house, and now the Lutz family saying that there's something in the basement, world-renowned demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, they descend on the property, and very quickly Ed and Lorraine say, yes, this house is definitely haunted. And in fact, to this day, the Amityville house is considered one of the most haunted places in the entire world. But while Ed and Lorraine were there, they took a very famous picture. Lorraine was walking around the second floor near where the brothers' room was, and she was snapping pictures. And the only people in the house at the time these pictures were being taken were her and her husband, Ed. And here is the picture that she took on the second floor. She claims this boy standing on the
Now that's not even like you know, sometimes you do stuff and they say like, oh, you know, there's a spirit here, or like if you look, I forgot my mouse works, like right here, like saying, oh, like that, there's a face right there, like maybe if you look hard enough you'd see something, or you could imagine something. But like this, that is very clearly a young boy, like right there. So yeah, that's definitely creepy. If that's legit, that's really scary.
left side of the picture is the ghost of John DeFeo. Today the house still stands, and it's been bought and sold a number of times over the years because apparently no one likes to live in this house for a very long time.
So how much would it take for you to live in that house? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop that comment, and hit that notification bell so you're notified each and every time we go live in 2025. My name is JD. I'll see you. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to come on today and hang out a little bit. See what's going on in these streaming streets. And it was really cool to hang out with everybody today and take in some MrBallen videos. Like I said, we have not really done MrBallen videos in a while, so it's nice to get back into a little bit of a routine of doing those. Hopefully we'll be able to do more of those moving forward. Maybe that'll be like a Sunday thing, since we have so much other stuff going on during the week. And this, if you don't know, if you go over to our channel, Monday through Fridays, we drop a trailer reaction video of some sort on our channel. So please check those out. Then on Monday of this week, we will be streaming and reacting to and having a watch party for the last episode of Chief of War, starring Jason Momoa, which is an awesome show that we've covered on the channel the entire time it's been out. Outside of that, on Tuesday we will be on doing a live stream watch party for Dancing with the Stars, the second episode of the newest season, which is season 34. We'll be doing that. Then on Wednesday we will be doing a live stream watch party for the 4th episode of Gen V season 2. And then on Thursday, we will be doing a live stream watch party for the 6th episode of season 2 of Peacemaker. So yeah, we are busy on this channel, and I am super glad that you have even stopped by for a few seconds to check it out. I really appreciate you guys for doing so. Where am I at? I'm in Illinois. We are in Illinois. Usually I'm on here with my wife, but she is out working right now. But yeah, we are in Illinois. Where do you happen to be at? Where are you located at? But yeah, that's pretty much our schedule. Like I said, we are everywhere you'd want to be. If you want to check out any sort of social network, just do a search for Watch Stuff with Us and you'll be able to find us on there. We are literally everywhere. So and we drop content everywhere too. So and I love interacting with folks and having people come in and hang out with the channel. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That is awesome. We gotta mark that location off on our calendar. Not a calendar, our map, because we've been trying to keep a map of all the locations where people are at. So please, if you like the content, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hang out with it, or hang out with hang out on our channel, because we do a lot of stuff that may be of interest to you. Watch Demon Slayer? No, have not. Funny story about that. My daughter is 17 and she was trying to go with her friends to watch that movie, but since nobody was over the age of 18, they weren't able to get in. And I was like, that's kind of odd, because it's not even, I don't think it's rated R. Maybe it is. It probably is rated R. But yeah, I didn't know that they even like enforce those types of rules anymore, where people, you know, you got to be over a certain age to get into a movie like that. And I mean, like, it's Demon Slayer, it's not that bad. But yeah, oh man, looks like we just got 2 subscribers. So whenever we get subscribers on this channel, I dance it out. We're doomed. Actually, we're not doomed. We're doing great. 554 and 555. Dance it out for our subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate you for doing so. He said, chill. I am not chilling out, because every time we get a subscriber, we got to represent on this channel for our subscribers, man. I really appreciate anybody who's willing to do that. Like, it's tough. It's tough to get subscribers regardless of where you're at. So yeah, I really appreciate you for subscribing to the channel. And just so you know, if you didn't hear it before,
I don't have friends. I got family.
Welcome to the family. I appreciate you for doing so. So yeah, we at 555, man. I guess unless we get 556, I'm gonna have to go ahead and end the stream real quick. But yeah, that was so funny. You said chill. Was I doing too much? I don't think that was doing too much. You got to bring some joy into the lives of folks when you doing something like this. Like, I truly enjoy coming on and like hanging out and interacting with folks and sharing some of the things that I enjoy, and having that sort of group dynamic where, you know, we watch things together. That's what's called Watch Stuff With Us. Like, we watch things together, we talk about it, and it's almost like you got that person hanging out with you. So a lot of times people watch the stream and they put like and they have us up on like a second screen at the same time. So like, it's almost like we all in a group hanging out. Oh, saying that I was chill. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm a chill dude. Until we get those subscribers. Then I got to like turn it up a little bit. Got to ratchet it up a few notches at that point. But yeah, man. Michael Jordan. Oh man, Michael Jordan, man. Come on now. No, definitely not a Michael Jordan. Might have the bald head, but not Mike. Not Mike. I need his riches. If you're gonna call me that, you need to be figuring out a way for you to slide his billions over my way into my bank account, because my bank account is looking real thin these days. Like, I'm a big dude, but my bank account is looking real small. So we need to figure out a way to get those Jordan funds over to my direction. Jordan never did that move. No. He specialized in some other moves, but definitely not that one. Especially the little shoulder shimmy. I mean, if we get 556, then whoever would get to see like that extra little shoulder shimmy in action for real, as opposed to just me giving a little bit right now. But you know, but yeah, I just gave out our schedule for the channel. Next week we'll probably come on for another Sunday and just do something random again. Like, it's fun to just come on and have these streams and just hang out with the folks. Now I'm about to go and sit down. Like I said, I'm in Illinois. I'm a Bears fan. I'm about to go sit down and watch this Bears game against the Dallas Cowboys and watch them probably get smacked up, most likely get smacked up, and go to 0-3. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my afternoon. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys for hanging out with the channel. And please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you're notified each and every time we go live in 2025. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you when I see you. Peace.